A city was suffocating under an invisible threat. Jewelry, cash, and valuables vanished in the dead of night without a single lock being broken. No one, rich or poor, was spared from the strange thefts. Among the city's impoverished was Okoro, a man once drowning in debt, shunned and mocked for his poverty. He was known more for his charm than for his integrity, very good at persuading others. He could sweet-talk anyone into lending him money, but never repay it. "Just this once, please. I swear I'll pay you back," he would say, flashing his convincing smile. Okoro's days were spent dodging debtors and weaving through the back streets of the city, trying to avoid anyone he owed money. If he saw them from afar, he ducked into corners or crossed the road hastily, hoping not to be noticed. His reputation as a man who borrowed but never repaid had spread. People whispered about him behind his back, mocking his smooth talk and false promises. Yet, when he approached someone for money, food, or favors, they found themselves handing it over despite knowing better. "He's got a silver tongue, that Okoro," one of his neighbors would say. "Before you know it, he has you convinced you will be paid back, but he never does." Chika, his wife, was the true backbone of the family. Every day she fried buns and puff-puffs at the corner of their streets near their run-down face-to-face apartment. Her life was an endless cycle of sacrifice. Every naira she earned was stretched thin, yet somehow she managed to feed the family, paying the children's school fees, and even settle the debts her irresponsible husband had racked up. The little money she made from frying buns and puff-puffs was never enough, but she made it work, often going without to ensure her children had what they needed. The smell of hot oil and dough was all too familiar to her as she toiled under the sun selling buns and puff-puffs. On the other hand, Okoro refused to work. He would take money from Chika, sometimes by force, demanding that he needed it to maintain his appearance. "You think I can walk around looking like a pauper?" he'd snap at her, pulling crumpled bills from her hard-earned earnings. Chika looked unkempt, worn down by the constant pressure, but her family's survival was all that mattered. Even when Okoro would forcefully take money from her, leaving her with barely enough to restock her supplies, Chika never complained. As her hands tirelessly molded dough and Okoro paraded the streets in borrowed confidence, it pained her that while she struggled, Okoro wasted their limited resources, and worse, he looked down on people like Chike, the sachet water hawker. Chike, though poor, walked relentlessly alongside his wife and children, walking the streets with trays of water sachets balanced on their heads. Unlike Okoro, Chike didn't borrow or steal. He worked for every kobo he earned. Yet, Okoro, who refused to lift a finger to provide for his own family, acted as though he was above such labor. "Look at them scrambling around the streets like ants hawking sachet water," Okoro would sneer as Chike and his family passed by. Okoro's arrogance in the face of his own uselessness disgusted Chika, but she held her tongue. After all, she had already learned that confronting Okoro would lead to nothing but heated arguments and more heartache. Yet, deep down, she admired Chike's perseverance, wondering how her own husband could be so blind to the truth that there is dignity in honest work. One evening, Okoro's envy was ignited when he saw a shiny, luxurious car parked outside their rundown apartment. It was his former secondary school classmate Eze, now wealthy beyond belief. "Eze, is that you?" Okoro called, waving eagerly, but Eze barely acknowledged him, driving off as if they had never met. Embarrassed and seething, Okoro stomped back home. That night, he approached Chika, desperation in his voice. "I have a plan, Chika. Give me some money. I'll go to the biggest thrift market in the next town, buy thrift clothes, and sell them in our market for a profit." Chika sighed, reluctant but hopeful. "This is the last time, Okoro. Don't waste it," she warned. He nodded eagerly, but when he returned a week later with empty hands and no explanation, her face hardened with anger. "You squandered it, didn't you? Where is the money, Okoro?" she demanded, but Okoro just shrugged, avoiding her piercing gaze. That day, she made snail stew and boiled rice, which she served for dinner. Okoro fled up as he gave a strange instruction to his wife Chika. "From now on, I don't want to see snails in this house. I hate them and I don't ever want them on the table." Chika raised her eyebrows in surprise. Snails had been one of their staple meals. She couldn't recall Okoro ever disliking them before. "But we used to eat snails all the time," she remarked, puzzled. Okoro shot her a sharp look. "Things have changed, Chika. I don't want to see or hear about snails again. Do you understand?" His tone left no room for argument, but Chika couldn't shake the oddity of his demand. Why was he suddenly so against something they once enjoyed together? Despite his warning, Chika's curiosity grew. "How can someone's taste change so drastically?" she whispered to herself one morning as she prepared the day's meals. Deep down, she knew she had to get to the bottom of it. Something wasn't right and she wasn't going to ignore the signs any longer. Okoro's deceptions grew worse when he began disappearing at night. "Where do you go every night?" Chika asked one morning, her tone suspicious. "Just for a walk, nothing more," he answered casually, but Chika wasn't convinced. One night, curiosity overcame her and she decided to follow him. She trailed him down the street, but before she could catch up, he had vanished into thin air. As days passed, the city was thrown into chaos. People woke up to find their most precious possessions gone, stolen without any sign of forced entry. Panic spread across the city, from Amadi, the landlord, to Okonkwo, the wealthy businessman, and even Nneka, the renowned jewelry seller. People found their valuables missing. It was as if the air itself had swallowed their possessions. No signs of forced entry, no broken locks. Amadi lamented to his neighbors, "I hid my money under the floorboards, yet when I checked this morning, it was gone." Okonkwo's wife was equally distraught. "My wrappers and jewelry, all gone. Okonkwo, how can this happen?" she cried. Meanwhile, the city buzzed with confusion and fear. The thieves left no trace, and no one could figure out how such meticulous crimes were committed. In the midst of the city's turmoil, Okoro's wealth seemed to explode overnight. One day, he pulled up in a brand new gleaming car, far more expensive than the one his former classmate Eze had flaunted. "Look at this beauty," Okoro boasted to anyone who would listen. Not only that, but he relocated his family to a lavish estate, an entire gated community that he had mysteriously purchased. Chika, stunned by the drastic change in their lifestyle, asked him, "Okoro, where is all this money coming from? You were broke just a few months ago." But Okoro would brush her off, smiling slyly. I told you, Chika, I made some smart investments. Don't worry about it. When she pressed, he became irritated. His voice sharp. Can't you just be happy? Why all the questions? As Okoro's wealth grew, he flaunted it shamelessly. He moved his children into the best schools, bought lands, estates, and even companies. He opened a chain of luxury restaurants for Chika, much to her surprise. "This is for you," he said, handing her the keys to one of the finest buildings in the city. "You deserve it." After everything, Chika's heart swelled with gratitude, but her doubts lingered. She couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that something was wrong. Meanwhile, in the city, banks, high-end boutiques, and shops where Okoro frequented found themselves mysteriously robbed. Items would disappear overnight, including the money from sales, without any break-ins. Store owners, frustrated and desperate, began to arrest their staff, accusing them of the thefts. "Someone in here is stealing from us," one boutique owner barked, as the staff were handed over to the authorities for brutal questioning. Yet no answers came. The mystery only deepened. "How could everything disappear overnight?" whispered Amaka, one of the shopkeepers, after her store was cleaned out. "It's as if a ghost passed through. Even the banks were not left out." While the city grew frantic with the relentless thefts, Okoro seemed untouchable. He continued to shower money on the streets, throwing naira notes from his convoy of luxury cars. People followed in hordes, scrambling to catch the bills as they fluttered in the wind. He hosted extravagant parties, dining in the finest restaurants, shutting them down for private events. "Nobody else enters while I'm here," he'd declare, paying the owners handsomely. The people who once mocked him now crowded around, desperate for a piece of his fortune. Even his former landlord, who had humiliated him for late rent, was now groveling for favors. To outsiders, Okoro's rise was miraculous, but beneath the surface, envy and suspicion simmered. "How can he afford all this?" whispered the same people who once ridiculed him. But no one dared ask him directly, fearing his wrath and growing influence.